First of all, the tempo marking that's given in the instructions officially is 120 to 126. I didn't play it that fast. It's very difficult to play that fast, and I think it just doesn't sound good that fast. And so I am recommending a tempo of about 92 to 100, and I mentioned that in the handout that you'll be able to read later. The tempo that's given, allegro giusto, doesn't mean as fast as possible. Giusto means proper or correct or suitable, and I think the tempo that's suitable is not as fast as what was published. The approach to practicing this, of course, is to start very slowly and with a metronome. In my own music, down the margins, I'll start putting numbers. Today I'm doing it at 72. Tomorrow I'll go back and do it slower, and then I'll get faster, go up to 80 or something, and I go 2 steps ahead each day and then 1 step back, constantly pushing a little bit further. But I find that I do better if I practice with a metronome and do it perfectly. Now that doesn't mean fast enough to even sound good, but I like to practice in perfection. If you play super fast before you're ready for it, it's probably just going to be a scramble, and it will never get any better because you're practicing in a mess. So practice perfection and then work up your speed. One of the awkward bits about this is on the 4th line, measure 7 and 8, where you have these huge intervals that you have to slur. Even when you have big intervals that you tongue, it's not easy on a flute to do. There's an exercise that I recommend that you can do for getting your intervals smoother, a harmonic exercise. It involves moving the jaw and the embouchure. When you have to play higher notes, your jaw should be forward and up. When you're going for lower notes, the jaw comes down and back, sort of angled like this. And the exercise that I do is based on how the notes come out of the flute. If you take a low register note, or in the first octave of the flute, like a G, to get the octave, you're not moving any fingers, you're just moving your embouchure. And so we take that principle and start on that 2nd octave, G, and go up to the next note. And this is part of the harmonic series. And I just do it with my embouchure, with my lips forward and up. I'm not moving fingers. And that puts me on a funny sounding high D, and then I'll finger that D correctly, and then go back. But I smooth it all together with a slur. And I'll take another middle octave note, go up at this point, perfect 5th, because that's where you are in the harmonic series. If you can anticipate the new note, that will make it easier. Don't just go whack for the new note, but start moving just a little bit before you're trying to get there, and that makes it easier. So that when you get to line 4 in this etude, in slow motion, that's the wrong fingering up there, but I just did it with my embouchure. Always in motion to get over those awkward intervals. There's some other ones down on the bottom of the page, the last couple lines too, but this constant motion is what I recommend to help those intervals. Another thing to watch for in this etude are the sudden changes of dynamics, making sure that you stay in tune, because on a flute, if you're playing loud, the pitch tends to go high, and if you're playing softly, the pitch tends to go flat. So you do the same things with your jaw and your embouchure that you would do as if you're going for high notes and low notes. In other words, if you need to be higher in pitch, you bring your jaw up. If you need to bring the pitch down, you drop the jaw. So I'm looking at line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for instance, second measure of line 6, where you have a low note that's loud, and then all of a sudden you're higher and you have to be softer, so you really have to move your jaw up and out. The point is, again, you're doing the same sorts of things with your jaw and your embouchure that you would be doing for high and low notes to help with the pitch. Some of the notes have double stems up and down, and I recommend that you don't, well, you know that that means to bring them out more, but don't hit them harder, but just sort of lean on them a little bit more. For instance, the second measure of the music. I'll start at the beginning. That chops it up too much. Rather just lean a bit on the notes. One of the challenges of this etude is breathing. When you get it fast enough, there isn't time to breathe. And also, sometimes it's hard to know when to breathe musically. I haven't always decided. I keep changing my mind. For instance, at the end of line 4, coming down those high notes, you could breathe at the end of the measure, which I did, or you could go into the first note of the next line. I'll play the 4th line, second measure. There, on the bar line, or you could do depends on how you pace it. Try different ways and do what sounds best to you. Often a good place for a breath is after, or one of those big intervals, like on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When you have a low note and then some soft higher notes, you could breathe after the low note downbeat. That's measure 13. I suggest that you mark the breaths in as you learn the notes. It's just as important as learning the notes is knowing where to breathe and putting that into the music successfully. I don't know if you like to ask questions before I go on to the other etude.